Shabbos Daf Kufchav Test. Today's amazing email comes from Eitan Ugorek. Very long email. Just read a couple parts of it, and he says, "I want to thank you and your family for all the hard work you put in. The effect you have on so many people's lives is amazing. The Daf has mamish changed / saved my life. It helps me go against my nature, which is being consistently inconsistent." And when he was learning Masechtas Brachas, he said every single word. One of the last things his mother told his father is, "Go learn the Daf with Eitan. Your mother's neshama should have an aliyah." We're continuing to discuss the halachas of a woman who gives birth. As long as her womb is open, says Rav Sheshes, you mechal Shabbos on her, even if she doesn't request. But if she says do not, you're not mechal Shabbos. Once her womb is closed, the Gemara is going to describe what that is, you're not mechal Shabbos on her, even if she requests. Mar Zutra is much more makel, and therefore we go with Mar Zutra, because Safek Nefashis Lakel. He says, as long as the womb is open, even if she denies help, you give her help. Once her womb is closed, even if she asked for help, you give her. Not like Rav Sheshes says that if she asks for help, you don't give her. What does it mean that her womb is open? 3 shitas. According to Abai, when she sits down on a stool. According to Rav Huna, when she has dam. According to Yeshayim, when her friends help her along to walk. What does it mean that the womb is closed? There are 3 stages. From birth until 3 days. Even if she says, I don't want help, you give her help, like Meretz Zutra. Yimachal Shabbos. From 3 days to 7 days, if she requests help, we give it to her. And from 7 to 30, even if she asks for help, she's no better than a choila she'em b'sakona. You're not mechal Shabbos. However, a guy could do the malacha for her. Shmuel says a woman who gave birth should not go to the mikvah until after 30 days, unless her husband is there and he could warm her. The Gemara tells us a story that Rav Chizda's wife, Rav's wife, who was Rav Chizda's daughter, didn't go by this, and she went to the mikveh within 30 days, and she became sick. So they had to carry her and her bed all the way to Rava to Puvadisa so that he could warm her. Shmuel says you light a fire for a woman who gave birth and for somebody who lets blood. And now we're going to go into a whole sugya of bloodletting. And if Rashi says if you make a fire for somebody who let blood, so certainly for any sick person, even in the summer. The Gemara tells us that Shmuel, Rav Yehuda, and Rabbah all burnt their expensive furniture in order to make a fire after they let blood. And the concept of baltashchis doesn't apply here, because baltashchis of your body, not to ruin your body, is more important than not to be mashchis your furniture. We know that if somebody walks barefoot, in other words, he can't afford shoes, that's a tremendous embarrassment. So the halacha is you should sell even the beams in your house to buy shoes. Yet when it comes to bloodletting, and you have nothing else but a pair of shoes, sell your shoes so you can have a meal after you let blood, because it's very dangerous if you don't. Rav Nachman used to tell his students, tell your wives that I'm coming for a meal. And like this, they'll make a big meal, and you'll have a lot what to eat. If a person cannot afford wine, the Gemara says this is one case where you're allowed to do trickery. You go into a wine store, you say, I would like to purchase wine, give me a taste. And then you give them a coin that's rubbed out, and they say, well, we don't accept that coin. So you go to the next store, you do it 7 times until you drink a whole revius. If you don't even have that, then you could eat 7 black dates, smear a little oil on your temple, lay in the sun. The Gemara tells us Shmuel laid in the sun, and Avlet said, what are you doing? Sun rays are bad for your health. So he said, oh no, but I let blood. But what really was going on, it was the Kufa of Tammuz. There's one day in the year that the sun is really beneficial throughout the entire day. If a person is not careful about the su'udah that he's supposed to eat after bloodletting, HaKadosh Baruch Hu won't have rachmanas on him and won't give him parnasa. What is the su'udah? According to Rav, you eat meat to replenish the life that's lost in a person. According to Shmuel, you drink red wine. It's the red that the body's missing, and they would make for Shmuel spleen dish because it's red. The Gemara tells us that after the bloodletting should be done in a room that there's no wind. In fact, Shmuel would go into a room that had a 22.5 tefach wide wall, which is about 7 feet wide. And one day after bloodletting, he realized something was wrong, and he checked the wall and he saw that 1.5 tefachim were missing. Rabbi Yochanan would drink enough wine until the smell of wine would come out of his ears. Rav Nachman would drink enough wine till his spleen was literally floating in wine. Rav Yosef, until wine would come out of the bloodletting wound. Rava would search for wine from a tree that was 3 years old. If a person doesn't eat immediately after bloodletting, it's very dangerous. If that person encounters a dead person, his face will turn green. If he encounters a murderer, he will die. And if he encounters a pig, he'll get saras. There are 5 things that bring a person closer to death than to life. And they are if a person stands up quickly, right after he eats, drinks, sleeps, bloodlets, and tashmish. A person should do bloodletting on Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. Not on Monday and Thursday. That's when the Bezdin is open down here and the Bezdin Shamal is open up there, and they coincide, and it's bad news. Unless, of course, a person has Schus Avos, then he could do bloodletting on Monday and Thursday. On Tuesday, you don't want to bloodlet because that's when Mars rules on an even hour. And since Mars is in charge of Cherev and Dever, and together with bloodletting, that's not a good combination. On Friday, even though Mars rules on an even hour, since people already made it a minhag, because of the fish that they eat, you're supposed to eat fish after bloodletting, and they didn't have money, they would eat the fish from Shabbos, it became a minhag, so Shomer P'sam Hashem watches over the foolish. It's very dangerous to bloodlet on a Wednesday, which falls out on the 4th day of the month, the 14th day of the month, and the 24th day of the month, and on a Wednesday that doesn't have 4 days left to the month. It's dangerous to let blood on the 3rd day of the after Rosh Chodesh, on Rosh Chodesh, and the 2nd day of the month weakens the body. Erev Yontav weakens the body. Erev Shavuos is a danger because there's a wind called Tavayach that threatened Klal Yisrael by Matan Torah. That same wind could threaten us today. Every year it's a new Kabbalas Torah from Manu. And therefore we made a Gzeira on all Yom Tovim, Erev Yontav, that you shouldn't let blood, it's a sakana. If a person eats wheat and then he does bloodletting, the bloodletting won't do any benefit for him. However, it will make him lighter. A person should drink immediately after bloodletting, and if he drinks afterwards, the Gemara's Mesubak is it just pariv, or it's actually dangerous. A person should eat for however long it takes him to walk a half a mil, have a little meal. The Gemara's Mesubak, what if he eats earlier or later? Is that pariv, or that's really dangerous for him? Rav used to announce, if a person is selling 100 gourds for 1 zuz, or 100 heads for 1 zuz, buy them, it has some nutritional value. But if somebody sells 100 lips for 1 zuz, don't buy them as 0 nutritional value. The Gemara says, now we understand why Yom Mefagri Rabbanan, the Ben Azmanim, the days that Chacham take off from learning, are called the days of the lips, because they are worthless. They didn't accomplish anything then. In order to warm up a baby, they would bury the placenta, if there were princesses, in oil, rich women in wool, poor women in rags. Rav says that like Rabbi Yossi, that you cut the umbilical cord, and Chacham agree that if it's twins, you definitely cut the umbilical cord because they pull away from each other and it's dangerous. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says in the pasuk in Yecheskel that Klal Yisrael doesn't have a karas hatayv, and they're like a mother who gave birth to a baby girl and abandoned her daughter. And from this we learn 5 halachas about giving birth. First of all, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says they delivered the baby. So you see you're allowed to deliver a baby on Shabbos. It says they didn't wash the baby. So you see you're allowed to wash the baby on Shabbos. They didn't salt the baby. You're allowed to salt. They didn't swaddle the baby. So you see you can swaddle. They didn't cut the umbilical cord. You see you're allowed to cut the umbilical cord. With that we finish. Perek Mifanim. Have a wonderful day.